I had just graduated high school and I wanted out of my small town fast. Not in a poetic way, in a practical way. I didn't want to spend another year watching the same streets, the same faces, the same conversations looping like a broken radio. I wanted a paycheck, a new place, and proof that my life had started. Two friends and I found what looked like the perfect shortcut. A quick money job at a casino in the nearest big city. Not glamorous work, just the kind of job that hires young people without questions and pays enough to make you feel like you're finally moving forward. The casino offered an employee dorm a few blocks away. Cheap housing, shared room, no commute problems. It sounded like luck. The only person who didn't sound happy for me was my uncle. In my family, he was the superstitious one, the relative people avoided at weddings because he'd look at a bride and say, "Be careful this year." The one they didn't invite to funerals because he'd tell the grieving widow things she didn't want to hear. Most of my relatives called him paranoid. Some called him embarrassing. Some acted like he was contagious. Like standing too close to him meant he'd say something about your future that would ruin your appetite. I wasn't close to him either. But I grew up hearing one thing repeated in whispers. When my uncle warns you, it's not for attention. It's because he felt something. The night before I left for the city, my phone buzzed with a message from a member I hadn't seen in months. It was him. No greeting, no small talk. Just don't stay near the door. Don't ignore what I give you. If anything feels wrong, leave. I stared at the screen, annoyed and unsettled at the same time. The timing was too specific. It wasn't like him to message me at night. I replied with something half joking, "What are you talking about?" But he didn't keep texting. He just told me to meet him. So I did. We met at a roadside coffee shop that smelled like frying oil and sweet tea. He looked the same as always. Thin, tired eyes, the kind of face that held too many thoughts. He didn't ask about my job, didn't congratulate me. He sat across from me and said quietly, "The moment I heard you were going to work at a casino, I felt like something noticed you." I almost laughed. Almost. But his expression didn't move. No drama, no performance. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket, thin, yellowed, covered in symbols I didn't understand, and slid it across the table like he was handing me a passport. Then he gave me 3 instructions, short and blunt. First, do not take the bed closest to the dorm door. Second, the moment you step into that dorm room, you burn this. He tapped the paper. Third, if anything strange happens, anything, quit immediately and leave. Don't wait, don't investigate. I wanted to ask him why. I wanted to hear him say it was just a bad feeling, so I could dismiss it. Instead, he looked at me like I was about to touch a hot stove. "I'm telling you because you're young," he said. "Young people always want proof." He didn't explain beyond that. He stood up, paid for both our drinks, and left me there with the paper in my hand and a sour taste in my mouth. The next day, the city swallowed us whole. The casino was exactly what you'd imagine. Bright lights that never dim, music that's always slightly too loud, perfume and cigarette smoke and money in the air. Everything polished, everything designed to make you forget what time it was. Then they brought us to the dorm. It was only a few blocks away, but it felt like stepping into a different world. The dorm building was older concrete, narrow corridors, lighting that felt tired, like the bulbs had been working too long and didn't care anymore. The elevator smelled like damp fabric and cheap detergent, the kind of smell that never fully leaves no matter how often someone mops. As we walked down the hallway to our floor, I noticed something that made my skin tighten. Almost every door looked like a shrine, beads hanging from handles, paper talismans taped to frames, small metal charms, prayer tags, different religions stacked on top of each other like people were desperate enough to try anything. It didn't feel decorative. It felt defensive. The staff member escorting us didn't comment on it. He walked with his keyring swinging, expression blank. He stopped at our door and did something that should have been normal but wasn't. He knocked, hard. Not 2 knocks, not polite knocks, a long series, fast and heavy. Like he wasn't asking permission, he was warning something inside. Then he unlocked the door, flipped the light on, and only after that did he step aside and let us enter. My friends didn't notice, or they pretended not to. Inside, the room was basic. 3 beds, a vanity desk, a small closet, and a window that looked out onto another building wall. 3 beds, one closest to the door. My friend laughed and dropped his bag on the doorside bed like he was claiming a throne. "Best spot," he said. "Quick exit when we're late." I didn't argue. I didn't even look at him. I quietly chose the farthest bed, pretending it was about privacy. pretending it was about not wanting to be disturbed. The paper talisman sat heavy in my pocket. I remembered my uncle's instruction to burn it immediately, but dorm rules were strict. No burning anything indoors. Smoke detectors everywhere, warning signs on every wall. I stood there for a moment, turning the folded paper in my hand, feeling stupid. Then I did what people do when they want to delay a decision. I told myself later. I slipped the talisman into my wallet. The moment it disappeared, I felt something in my chest sink, like I'd ignored a seatbelt click. We started unpacking. One of my friends opened the vanity drawers, probably expecting leftover hair ties or dust. Instead, he froze. Inside was a large cloth talisman, not a small charm but a thick piece of fabric with markings, folded neatly, like it belonged there, like someone had placed it with care. None of us brought it, none of us wanted to touch it. My friend tried to laugh. Leftover junk, he said. But his voice didn't land. The cloth didn't feel like junk. It felt like protection, or containment. That night, the city noise outside was distant, muffled, like the building had its own private silence. My doorbed friend fell asleep quickly with headphones on, knocked out like the day never happened. I lay awake longer than I wanted to admit. The room felt watchful, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, patient way. Then the vanity lamp clicked on by itself, not flickering, not buzzing, not dim, bright, steady, intentional. The light filled the room with a harsh glow that made everything look cheap and exposed. The cloth talisman in the drawer seemed darker somehow, like it absorbed light. My friend with the headphones didn't move. He slept like a rock, jaw slack, hands nowhere near the switch. I stared at the lamp, waiting for my brain to offer an explanation. Loose wiring, power surge, bad bulb. But the lamp didn't behave like an electrical issue. It just sat there, calmly lit, like someone had turned it on to make sure I noticed. It stayed on long enough for my eyes to stop watering. Then it shut off, cleanly, no flicker, no struggle, like a finger lifted from a switch. In the morning, I asked my friend if he turned it on in his sleep. He laughed, swore he didn't, told me I was jumpy, but when he said it, he didn't look at the lamp. He looked anywhere else, like he didn't want to give it attention. The next day, my wrist still tense from the night before, I went to the corridor water dispenser to fill a cup. I pressed for normal water. It blasted scalding hot water like a sudden cough, not a trickle, not warm, boiling. It splashed my hand and wrist, and I jerked back so fast I almost dropped the cup. Pain hit immediately. Sharp, bright, humiliating. My skin reddened in seconds. I cursed and fumbled with the buttons, thinking I must have hit the hot lever. The hot water switch was off. My breath got tight. I crouched down and checked the outlet. The plug wasn't even connected. The dispenser wasn't powered. There shouldn't have been any hot water at all. I stood there staring at the unbeliever. And the passengers I checked out the cup, the water switch was off. I stood there staring at the unoutlet like it was a joke with no punchline. And in that moment, my uncle's warnings replayed in my head word for word, each one hitting harder now that I had something I couldn't explain. Do not sleep near the door. Burn the talisman immediately. If anything strange happens, leave. I stopped trying to understand. I went back to the room and packed. No dramatic announcement, no argument, just quiet hands shoving clothes into a bag. My friends mocked me. They called me dramatic. They said I was wasting a good job. They asked if my uncle had scared me with old people nonsense. I didn't fight them. I didn't try to convince them. I knew how that goes. People don't believe until they want to believe. I walked to HR and resigned with a fake excuse about a family emergency. On the way out, the corridor felt quieter than it should have, like the building was listening to my footsteps leave. Once I was outside, the air felt normal again. Not safe, just normal. My hand throbbed from the burn. The city noise returned. Cars, voices, life, and in my wallet, the paper talisman sat unburned like an unfinished sentence. For a few days, one of my friends kept working and kept texting jokes. He sent pictures of the casino lights like proof that nothing bad could happen in a place that bright. He called me Grandma's boy, told me I'd regret leaving. Less than a week later, he called, and he didn't joke. His voice was flat, like he was trying not to shake. He said he was walking back to the dorm late and saw something at the end of the hallway, near the last room. A young woman, skin pale, hair down to her waist, standing perfectly still. The problem was obvious the moment he said it. It was a male dorm floor and the end room was supposed to be empty. He blinked, She was gone, but he said the air smelled damp afterward, like wet hair in a closed bathroom. Then he told me about the shower. He was washing his hair, water full pressure, soap in his eyes, and the faucet shut off by itself. Not sputtering, not a building issue, like a hand calmly turned the knob closed while he watched. He stood there dripping in silence, too scared to move, waiting for water to come back. He didn't finish the shower. He got out. That night, he said, he watched the gap beneath his door. A shadow moved back and forth in the corridor, slow, repeating. It traveled between his door and the empty end room, again and again, like a person pacing with no destination, like it was checking if he was asleep. He stayed awake until sunrise. At dawn, he packed without showering, resigned the same day, and left like he was escaping a fire. Later, I received a single text from him. "You were right, I'm sorry." After that, I never moved into any employee dorm again. When I finally went home, I took the paper talisman out of my wallet. I found a metal bowl, set it on the ground outside, and burned it the way my uncle told me to. The paper curled into ash, slowly, like it didn't want to go. I watched until nothing was left but dark flakes and a smell that reminded me of old incense and scorched dust. I still don't know what that dorm building was defending itself from. I only know my uncle sensed it before I did, and everyone avoided him for being superstitious, right up until the moment he was right.